The first movie I noticed passed the Bechdel test with flying colors is a movie that, unfortunately, gets a lot of hate. That movie, of course, is Thor the Dark World. Yeah, the reception to Thor the Dark World was not the greatest, and I certainly would hate to be the director facing such criticism. Probably the greatest point of criticism would be the villain.
Oh, still, you little prick.
Good to be back.
I am the Mandarin!
I always suspected you had a suit stored away somewhere, which begs the question, who is the new Ant-Man?
In the case of Malekith, he is often just criticized for being pure evil.
Malekith is a generic evil machine who shows no semblance of human emotion.
And in the comics, he is borderline psychopathic, willing to murder his own people to get back into power, which works somehow. But at least he is eccentric.
Look at me.
Okay, so on the surface, MCU Malekith is pure evil and boring.
And you thought this conference would be boring.
Hello, SpongeBob. Could you keep it down? I'm trying to be boring.
And quick disclosure, most if not all I know about comics Malekith comes from Volume 1 of Jason Aaron's Thor line of comics. I still need to get Volume 2. And that Watch Mojo video covering Malekith's origins where he does stuff with the Casket of Ancient Winters. And another quick disclosure, the only Marvel comics I've read recently are the aforementioned Jason Aaron Thor comics Volume 1 and Avengers Next, chiefly because I have a huge thing for its villain Silene. Hashtag make Silene canon, hashtag MCU Silene, hashtag Silene in Love and Thunder. Anyway, Malekith's main goal in the film is
To transform our universe back into one of eternal night.
Hey, why don't you try to steal some magic gas that no one cares about, Malekith?
Why does the elf man want to shoot magic Kool-Aid into the sky holes?
This dark elf Malekith wakes up from hypersleep. Oh, what's his deal? Well, there's this convergence thing happening where all the 9 realms align, so he wants to use the ether to plunge them all into darkness.
Now, as ambiguous as turning the universe into one of darkness is, I think the film does give us 2 previews of what that would look like. As for why Malekith and the Dark Elves seek to do this, the film never gives us any direct answers, but I have a theory. As you may have noticed, much of what you would see in Malekith's universe is black and red. Recall from physics class that light exists on a spectrum. We humans can only see a small area on that spectrum. In fact, different species are capable of seeing different areas on that spectrum. In terms of what we can see, the shorter wavelengths tend to be violet, and shorter than that would be ultraviolet light. On the longer end of the spectrum, our limits tend to look reddish, and beyond that is what's called infrared. I propose that the eyes of an MCU Dark Elf are optimized for a longer wave light such as human visible red light and infrared light, and maybe even longer than infrared light. It's possible that the Dark Elves are capable of seeing shorter wavelengths than red, but for some reason it is somewhat painful for them to do so. Why else would all the Dark Elves, save for Malekith and Algrim, wear those masks if not to protect their eyes from the light that you and I can see without much trouble? Let's also look at another scene from the film. From here, I can conclude that Malekith has more concern for his race than he's given credit for, and I can't blame them, especially given this scene.
With the battle all but lost, Malekith sacrificed his own people in a desperate attempt to lay waste to Asgard's army.
However, I can't rule out the possibility of the unreliable narrator at work here, where what we're told or even shown might not have happened, at least not in the way that we're led to believe it did. History is written by the victors, and in that battle, Asgard was clearly the victor. Furthermore, consider who told us that Malekith sacrificed his own people. Here, Odin just admitted that he would do the same thing. This is a classical case of projection. In this context, according to Merriam-Webster, projection is the attribution of one's own ideas, feelings, or attitudes to other people or to objects. While it is possible that Malekith did indeed order those ships to crash into his own troops, it's also possible that this could be a lie formulated by Asgard to make Malekith look even worse than he actually is. Those ships could have crashed due to Asgardian bombing runs or some other factor stemming from the battle. It is pretty tragic that what the Dark Elves desired or even needed ran in direct conflict with everyone else. So much so that Thor's claim to Loki,
You can't kill an entire race.
clearly didn't protect the Dark Elves, who are clearly capable of having noble values towards each other. Take Algrim, Malekith's second-in-command. When Algrim agreed to become a cursed elf, it was implied that his cursed state would eventually consume him. How long would he have lasted?
We don't know.
What his end would look like?
We don't know.
But it is clear he would not last too long. Consider the fact that Kurse was able to whack Mjolnir away from him. There are two possible things that could be at play. 1. The Reality Stone was able to create a protective shell around him, one capable of protecting him against any weapon Asgard threw at him, even Mjolnir. The pod he used to transform into Kurse looks like it could be Reality Stone generated. 2. Algrim/Kurse may actually be worthy of Mjolnir. For this video, I'm going to subscribe to the second theory. 1, because this would give Thor the Dark World more depth, which is something I'm trying to do. 2. Malekith had the Reality Stone with him after Kurse was gone, and Malekith was not able to deflect Mjolnir the way Kurse was. We also have to look into why Kurse was worthy, and while there is no definitive criteria for Marvel, film theory came up with a possible list of criteria when assessing whether Thanos was worthy, where he concluded that Thanos most definitely was. 1. You have to be willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. Becoming a curse eventually consumes you. Check. 2. You only use violence when necessary. During the prison riot, Kurse could have waited around for more Asgardians to show up, but was gone by the time Thor arrived. He wanted to destroy Asgard's shields and then retrieve Malekith, only stabbing Frigga when Malekith told him to. Check. While using violence, it has to be in pursuit of a goal, at which point you'll stop. Kurse clearly had no plans to continue using violence once darkness returned. Check. While Kurse may have opposed Asgard directly, being pro-Asgard clearly wasn't the highest priority for Odin when assessing worthiness. If it was, he would have done way more to prepare Asgard for Hela's arrival, eventual return, such that Thor wouldn't have needed to turn to Ragnarok to deal with her. So now that you have gotten to listen to my insights about Thor the Dark World, do you find yourself having a positive opinion of the film? Or at least a more positive one than the one you had coming into this video? Do you think any of my insights might have been in error? Are there any other insights into this film I may have missed? Leave your thoughts in the comments section down below and subscribe to Media Dunce.